10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician Chris Aceto on this February 10th, 2020 afternoon. And Chris, we are 1 week out from my 52nd birthday.
Oh my goodness, you don't look a day over 51.
You're already 52, right?
53.
Oh, 53, right. You just turned, right. Okay. You're a year older than me. I forgot. On President's Day, nonetheless. I'll be 52. Right. So
what's that mean? Means you probably can go down to Mar-a-Lago and hang out with Derek Trump. Is it Derek Trump or
Eric Trump? I think, right?
Eric Trump.
I don't know. It's crazy. I feel like I just turned 50, and now I'm approaching 60.
It goes quicker.
Yeah.
Goes quicker. You know what? This is what I know. I knew it was going to go quick when I was 18.
You did?
Oh yeah, that's why I did that's why I always do what I want to do. I've always done what I want to do because I knew it would go quick, and that is probably one of the best insights that I can give anyone.
Well,
tell people
it goes
all
quick
the
when you
time.
do what you want. If you don't do what you want, it goes agonizingly slow.
Well,
don't you think?
you know what? I know people who do this. Well, geez, smart people. It just takes a long time. I'm not sure if I want to become a doctor. It's just a lot of years. I said, dude, it's going to go so ridiculously fast that after you're a doctor for 10 years, you'll say, gosh, I'm a doctor for 10 years already, or I'm a lawyer for 10 years, or whatever it may be.
Isn't it weird though that I stopped medical school in my third year? What would 2 years, a year and a half left would have taken for me to do it? I could have done it, but there was something in my mind.
You probably would have won the junior nationals, though, had you?
Yeah, I wouldn't have. But there's something was in my mind that said don't do it. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. It was like I didn't want to do it. It was like, you know how sometimes you just have an internal knowing that like that's not what you're supposed to do.
Oh, of course.
And it's weird because
if you can hook up with
anti-logic. It was such bad logic, like because like I'm not like a quitter or anything like that.
Or someone else's logic. It's your logic. It was 100% logical.
Well, I could have just finished, and I could have. I mean, what would another year and a half? I could have just said, all right, I have my MD, and then I'll just do whatever I want anyway. But I don't think that year and a half probably wouldn't have been that vital. But maybe it would have. Maybe those were my peak.
If you become an MD, Blackman would be suing you for using the initials after your name.
You know what though?
Yeah, Dave, you can't waste.
Being an MD is not an advantage to being in the bodybuilding industry. It's actually a disadvantage because you really can't give medical advice, like off-label medical advice. So you're actually liable. So it's actually better that I did not become a doctor. If I was going to, since I'm going on and doing what I want to do.
It's funny. I never became a lawyer, but let me give legal advice right now on the show.
So it's you have to kind of follow your instincts, and you got, like you said, because it goes too fast. If you get stuck doing something you're really not that happy doing, it makes your life miserable. Then you wind up getting sick and dying early, and so I don't believe in that. I bet you if my mom didn't pass away when I was younger, I probably would have become a doctor. I think I realized that life is too short, and
Oh, got it. I was going to say, how's that factor in?
Yeah, because I think I said to myself, you know what? I don't want to live a miserable life. I don't want to be. If I'm unhappy doing this, then I shouldn't do it. That's all. And I had I had a lot of belief in myself. My father instilled a lot of confidence that you could do anything you want. So I believed that I would be. I didn't know how I would be successful, to be honest with you. But I said I know I could be successful doing anything I want. So I'm not going to worry about this leaving medical school. I feel like I'm smart and that I have a good. I said I really like this bodybuilding thing, and I don't know what it is about it because I really wasn't making any money initially, but I said something's right about it. I don't know, and I liked the whole how to keep the body healthy and that kind of stuff. It was way more interesting, and I realized doctors didn't know anything about that whatsoever. So maybe I felt like that was going to be my niche. You have to always find your niche. I think people that they don't think about that when they think about careers. and about what they want to do. Even bodybuilders. There's a million niches within the bodybuilding world, right, that you can kind of exploit. Yeah. Whether you be a supplement company owner, which too many people try to exploit that one, a coach, which is good now. Coaching is good business now because there's so many people who are competing that you can never have enough coaches. So that's a good niche to find for yourself. Or like I told John Hansen, I said, John Hansen called me up. We talking on the phone, and he's like, what do you think I should do? I said, John, you're the natural Olympia guy. You should be the natural guru. Why aren't you coaching people? You know bodybuilding. You know how to write diets. I mean, what are you doing? And he's like, you're right. And he started doing his coaching thing, and that's what he's calling himself, the natural guru. But that's his niche, That's what he's known for. So you got to find what you're good at and what you like to do, and then become an expert in that. Whether it be vegan diets or
ketosis diets.
Yeah, or you want to be a
get you going, Dave. Let your flame there. Go ahead. Yeah.
Or you want to become a fish oil specialist. That specializes in fish oils.
Yeah,
the cod father.
Or you want to be Alexander.
I'll give you another one. Jimmy Pilecki found a niche for himself. He was coined the power bodybuilder by Don Ross, John the Ripper Ross. Because he looked like a bodybuilder and trained with bodybuilding, but he also did powerlifting movements, and he had the strength of a powerlifter. So they called him a power bodybuilder. And that no one had exploited that niche, right? And he would just go do strength.
Don Ross had a niche. What are you talking about? Don Ross had a niche.
Yeah, he was the Ripper.
He was the Ripper. He did a little wrestling, and he ended up becoming a writer. For people who don't know, Don Ross won, I think, his class at like the WBBG Mr. America. So it was like a asterisk version of the Mr. America.
Right. He didn't have a great physique, but he was always shredded, right?
Yeah. And he ate, slept, and trained bodybuilding.
Oh, he loved it. He loved it, right?
And he moved out to Venice. And he was older, right? I mean, and he was still training in his older age, and then he started to write. And he wasn't a good writer,
Oh, he wasn't?
No, he developed it. He figured it all out after, and so he started writing he'd do some articles for Weider, but he'd beg Weider to do articles.
Oh, really? He wrote for Bleckman more, right?
Yeah, and then eventually Bleckman picked him up, and he started writing like crazy for Bleckman.
Yeah, that was a total Bleckman person that he would relate to, and he wrote a column, and then wasn't he on the American Muscle magazine too? He had a little segment on there.
He may have.
Don the Ripper Ross with Muscle Beach, something or another, gossip or whatever,
Well, he wasn't. Don would show up every day at Gold's Venice.
Right? That's how I met him.
Dave, and he would spend 4 hours a day gossiping. I'm dead serious. He would spend.
He was the original social media. He was the original Instagram.
There was no Instagram.
Right, he was
That's
the
right.
Instagram.
So he would walk through the gym. He'd see Dave Palumbo, let's say. Right. He'd see Mike Christian.
And he'd talk to everyone.
He'd hear a snippet from Mike Christian, go to Charles Glass, hear a snippet, go to Gary Strider, hear a snippet, and, find out whose girlfriend's cheating on who, and, what this guy said about that guy. And he did that every single day, and he trained twice a day.
Oh, he did? Yeah, when I saw him.
He trained twice a day and gossiped 4 hours a day, so he was there the whole entire day. And he made a little niche of, he ended up writing gossips, little stories.
Yeah, he made money from it. He made money from it. He, I knew him from reading his column, obviously. What was his column called in MD?
Oh, I have no idea.
Was it Muscle Beach or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It was, and then I remember he had the little segment on the TV show. So in my mind, he was like a quasi celebrity.
Well, probably, he was, and he loved it.
Right, but probably at Gold's, they probably thought he was just the local.
Well, he was Don Ross, the gossiper.
Yeah. And so when I went to Gold's for the first time, and I run into him in there, and he's like looking at me because obviously, I wasn't crazy freak the first time I went there, but I was still big and I was veiny, like crazy. You know how veiny I am, and he loved veins, right, and vascular.
Yeah, because he was known for his vascularity.
He's like, holy shit, look at how vascular this guy is. What's your name? Wow. I said, you're Don the Ripper Ross. And he loved that I recognized him. I said, we got to take a picture. I said, vein on vein. He loved it. He was like hitting this most muscular shot. He had like 12-inch arms, but he was like, got the vein going through the arms. He had terrible arms, but he was ripped. That's all he cared about, veins and ripped. And so we became friends after that. I wasn't, personal friends with him, but we just hit it off. And I could tell he was like cut from the same cloth as me, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He was good friends with Pelletier, right? Didn't he discover Pelletier?
Yeah, I think, yes, that's right. He was a good friends with Pelletier. He was also, Don Ross was also like a power, power bodybuilding type. He used
yeah. He not only named Jimmy the power bodybuilder, but he also gave him the first, I think, notoriety in the magazine, which probably got Jimmy that contract with Twin Lab.
Yeah.
He probably called Blackman. He's like, you got to see this guy, Pelletier.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's benching 1,000 pounds. You got to feature him. Blackman's like, I get pictures. Get pictures.
Yeah.
Freaky pictures.
FedEx them out.
Yeah, FedEx them out. That's right. They had a FedEx the pictures back then. Blackman's FedEx account bill must have been through the roof.
You know what's so funny? I was just going to say, if you were a big shot if you had a FedEx account.
Yeah. My FedEx account sent me to jail. That was my FedEx account.
Well, you were a big shot back then.
Yeah, I thought it was. So, yeah, John Ross. Wow. How did he die? What did he have? A heart attack, I think?
Heart attack.
He probably had a bunch.
Well, it was, I told you it was the other day, Romano was wrong. Where are the bodies? Starting to pile up.
Yeah. He probably had blockages in his cardiac vessels. He probably didn't even know it. He probably that was before the cardiac CT scans were available. You had to get an angiogram. No one wanted to get. Who wants to go for an angiogram if you don't think there's anything wrong with you, right? No one would just voluntarily go for one, No. Because an angiogram, they got to actually stick a catheter up your into your groin through the vessel there and feed it up to your heart and actually visualize. That's like an invasive, like inpatient type procedure. You got to stay overnight because they got to make sure you don't bleed when they pull the thing out. So a lot of people are not going to voluntarily just go do that unless they have pain. So, but nowadays, because the non-invasive nature of the cardiac CT scan, everyone should get one done, especially if you're over 35 years old. I mean, for God's sakes, I would get it done before that, but get it done at least to see what your baseline is, because there are guys in their 20s with blockages that don't know it.
Hey, we're talking about, I know, health, which made me think of health insurance. I was burning my receipts from 2011 the other day.
Ooh.
So, after 7 years, you can throw the receipts out,
years
right?
You can throw receipts in, okay.
I think it's 7 years. So, 2010, everything's labeled, and I'm putting them in my fireplace. Mm-hmm. And I usually burn unpurchased copies of MD to heat the house, but in this case, I was burning my tax receipts from 2010 and 11.
Right.
My health insurance was $410 in 2011. Guess what the same exact policy is today? Same policy.
Is that for the whole family, or is that just for you?
Yeah, for the whole family it was $410.
At least $1,200 in Maine.
$1,851.
All right, I was going to say hi. I forgot you have it. I thought you got a new baby. I forgot.
Well, the new baby only adds $240, so it's technically it's $1,610. So it went from $410 to $1,610.
Wow. Yeah, the insurance and it sucks. You know that we had to take my daughter to the emergency room the other day because she had like a really crazy fever. It was like $500. That's the deductible. $500. The copay rather.
But you know what happens though in those situations when everything goes good. You could care less about the $500.
I had to do it. She had 107 fever on her forehead, not on her body. But I mean, it was scary. You don't take a chance with a 2-year-old, so we had to go. But the point is that we have the best insurance you can buy, pretty much, without going insane, and it's a $500 deductible for an emergency. Who wants to go to the emergency room unless you actually, it's like you almost don't want to go, even if you need to. And then I see the people in the emergency room with Medicaid, like who use the emergency room as their doctor, They go they go there every time they have a little
strep throat.
Strep throat. They go there.
Hey, I am not sure. I don't want to frighten you to death, but I did read somewhere. We were talking before we went on the air about me being a big reader. Mm-hmm. Well, before, anyways, I read somewhere that the coronavirus originated with snakes. Did you see that? I'm dead serious.
Yeah, I read something. Someone sent me a link to the
I was going to ask you about
snakes. I don't know.
Your
but they were saying
2.5 years of med school, and look how close you are to the 2.5 years of med school, and you raise snakes.
Yeah, there you go.
So I figured Dave would know.
I think that they said that they were eating it was in the Chinese markets. They were eating dead snakes or something like that, or something was eating. Oh, no, because the snakes eat bats, and then the bats are the ones that are infected with the coronavirus, and then the Asians sell the snakes to eat.
They sell the bats to eat.
Oh, they sell the bats to eat. Where did the snakes come in, Amanda?
I don't know.
I heard snakes too. Someone was saying, but
They were eating bats and bat soup.
oh.
I don't know.
Amanda said that it's not the snakes, it's the bats. People are eating the bats in bat soup. I didn't know anyone made bat soup, but
Actually eat bats. Whole.
but that was spreading the virus too. I had a kid who took my course. My guru course was from China.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I didn't come from China. I came from San Francisco. He could barely speak English. He's like, I don't have coronavirus. I'm like, no one's accusing you of having. Should we?
Yeah. But just in case, can you put the thermometer under your tongue?
Can you bend over so we can take your temperature? Take a swab of your mouth. So, it's crazy. We live in a crazy world. There's always new viruses mutating, and who knows? There's a million conspiracy theories about it. People think that
there's a conspiracy. Yeah, I'm
people
sure.
think they're concocting these viruses and releasing them. It is interesting that all the major diseases all come out of like India and China. Now I'm going to be accused of being a racist, but it's true. A lot of these countries that have a lot of poverty or a lot of people, that's where all these viruses originate.
Well, where did the Spanish flu come from?
I don't know.
I don't know. What was the flu that almost wiped out Europe? I mean,
The plague,
I don't think that
bubonic
came from-
plague,
Where'd that come from?
came from the rats. Came from the rats in the
Oh,
sewage.
that's right.
They spread it. It wasn't the rats. It was the mites on the rat that had the plague. I think it was, and that's what spread it. But they didn't have antibiotics. They didn't have antibiotics and stuff like that back then. You know. Although
how many
bubonic
people
plague was
died?
probably a virus, so it didn't matter. You know. I don't know. There's still plague. You know, there's still bubonic plague around, but it doesn't kill people anymore because they can give you electrolytes now, and they have better methods of keeping you alive until you get over the plague. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I guess it was just, you know what, they just didn't understand about sanitary conditions back then. I would have hated living in, 1700s and stuff like that, 1600s, or even before that. I don't even want to go camping. I think it's disgusting, you know? Sleeping outside. When I was a kid, I thought it was cool, but not anymore. I don't have.
Yeah, you can still enjoy camping. They have things called RVs.
Yeah, RVs are really good if you have.
And then you can go and you can, go out into the woods somewhere, turn the air condition on,
right,
make a cup of coffee,
walk out, get Lyme disease, you know.
Yeah,
Deer
you know
tick.
what, Dave? I tell you, I don't go anywhere. I don't anywhere with woodsy anymore because of Lyme disease. My cousin has it.
Yeah, it's a terrible disease. You can't cure it unless you catch it
Justin
right away.
Bieber, Justin Bieber has it.
Justin Bieber has it? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's what he thought. He was going crazy, and he was,
Where did he get Lyme disease?
who knows?
He didn't get it in
Who knows?
Calabasas or wherever he's from over there in California. That's for sure.
I don't know. They're everywhere in Maine. Ticks.
Yeah, that is crazy. What's worse, the Lyme disease ticks or the bed bugs? Maybe they should. Maybe they can eradicate each
I
other.
hope they don't. Well, I hope they don't mate because then you have.
The super bug. Then we really have
Yeah.
something to worry about.
Well, I'm just trying to.
Someone should do
imagine-
like a movie about that, like a horror movie about bed bugs, like that they mutate and get bigger and stuff like that, and they turn into like the size of like
Well,
dinosaurs.
if they get wings or something, all they need is a little flight, and we're all screwed.
You're all screwed. So I guess the story of the week is that. Well, I wouldn't say it's the story of the week. It's one of the stories of the week. Shawn Ray went on that Patrick Bet David, the Valuetainment channel, and did an interview. And I guess one of the things he brought up was the fact that him and Chad Nicholls have had this feud going for years, ever since Shawn was competing and Chad was helping all the guys that were beating him. And Shawn's been saying for years that Chad's responsible for killing all these people, and that all the guys that died, Nasser and
JFK and Martin Luther King.
yeah, we're all caused by
Blaming
Chad.
him for that.
Chad killed Don Youngblood. All the guys with the kidney problems from from Flex Wheeler to Don Long and all those people. That he blames Chad Nicholls for, and Tom Prince. And, There's a whole list of people that.
I'm sure
Nasser.
Shawn. I'm sure Shawn has a list.
Well, he listed it. I never saw him actually. He's
I
always
am sure.
taking shots at Chad, but this was a pretty direct hit on Chad. That hey, this is what happened. The only people who didn't use Chad were me and Dorian, and we're still alive and healthy. So that was his evidence, I guess you could say. Now, evidently, I guess Patrick Bet-David must have contacted Chad, and I saw a picture. I sent it to you that he's going to be
I
having
commented
Chad.
on it.
Yeah.
I said I can't wait to. It's better than the Arnold Classic.
No, well, I mean, I don't even know if I would even qualify or even go on there to even respond to it. But I mean, I guess
No, you have to because
Yeah.
you have to.
right.
Of course, you have to.
It is kind of it is coincidental that you can show this pattern, but then again, all the guys that Chad helped were the best guys and probably were the most extreme guys in the sport. Well before he even started working with them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
What I would say is Chad cost Shawn about $4 or $5 million.
And
That's
how
what I
would you
would
say
say.
that? Why? Because Shawn didn't win the Olympia because of him?
If there was no Chad, there'd be no Ronnie. If there was, Shawn would be the heir apparent.
You might be right.
Or if there was no Chad, there'd be no, Flex came on remarkably strong when he turned pro, right? He won the Arnold Classic.
Who helped him when he turned pro? Because he looked really good those first, that first Arnold Classic.
Ray
and that-
McNeil. Not Ray McNeil. Joe McNeil.
Joe McNeil was helping him. Oh,
Joe McNeil.
that was
and
the
then,
best conditioning Flex ever had.
Yeah, so he had his conditioning thing down, and then he struggled, and then, Chad got him in great shape, and so that was, then you ended up having Shawn as the odd man out.
Just going back from it, did people hire Chad before or after they started instituting the diuretic testing?
No, people went to Chad because I'll tell you I'm sure you can ask Chad, but Kim came on the scene,
Right.
and with
She's
tremendous level of muscularity, and people like Wheeler was like, okay, if she can look like that, I should be able to look like that in terms of level of conditioning, and people like Flex would gravitate towards Chad and say, what are you doing?
Right.
That's how those relationships were built. And as I said, Shawn was the one getting beat.
Right. So Shawn went on there and aired it. Now we're gonna see Chad air. What do you think Chad is gonna say in response if you had to if you had to speculate? Do you think he's going to throw dirt at Shawn and air some Shawn's dirty laundry?
I don't think he'll. No, I don't think. No, that would be what something Shawn would do to air dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Chad will just address the facts without a shadow of a doubt,
Right.
which means he will probably delve into the fact, and Flex can tell you this, that he was born with some type of kidney disease or ailment, or that's documented, I think. And people like Nasser died 10, 12, 15 years after 1997, which is probably the last year Chad worked with them, or 98.
Right. My name is always being brought up. I don't understand these people. They just want to use my name, and I am not here anymore.
Yeah, it's funny, Dave, is that is Shawn hates bodybuilding coaches.
Yeah.
Explain that one to me.
Well, he obviously was able to do it himself, but a lot of guys can. So
Okay, so Phil didn't do it, Jay didn't do it, Ronnie didn't do it, Kamal didn't do it, Roden didn't do it by themselves. Explain it to me again.
Yeah. The only person I know who didn't have a coach was
Flex
Dorian.
Lewis didn't do it. Keep going.
Yeah.
Who was before Flex in the 212?
Look, I think getting a coach is a smart thing to do if you don't know what you're doing, because
If you know what you're doing, it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, because it's hard to advise yourself. It really is. It's hard to make to look at yourself subjectively and say, okay, this is what I got to do.
Just because there's things called in life exceptions to the rule. And Shawn Ray is one of the best bodybuilders ever, and he did it 100% all himself. He's self-made in that department, and he is an exception to the rule.
Yeah, you're right.
And having said that, the odd part of it is, if he did have a coach, you don't know if he would even be better and have won the Olympia.
Right. Well, he claims that Chad had contacted him and said, I can make you Mr. Olympia and all this stuff, and he didn't want to take all the drugs.
Maybe that was true. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you another one. Just because you have a beautiful physique doesn't mean that you didn't use anabolics. And full stop.
Yeah.
And
we weren't there in the room with him when he was taking them. We don't know what he was taking.
Dave, there's a lot of people with fabulous, gorgeous, beautiful, flowing, nutty physiques, and you say, what are you taking? And you expect them to say 10 milligrams of this, and you say, I know, and they give you this list, and you drop, your jaw drops.
Right. I'm
not saying Shawn took as much as so and so, but the idea that that they're using one thing, I mean, right?
No, you're 100% right.
So,
just is what it is. I mean, speaking of people dying and kidneys, Scott Milne died over the course of the last week. I think he died right after we did the show at 46 years old. He had, according to his family, had a hemorrhagic stroke. I don't know what it was caused by, but some people had suggested an infection or something like that. I don't know. It's a little sketchy, the whole, what happened, but he's no longer with us. He was another one of those, they called him the Canadian Moose. He was another really
muscle
big
tech guy, right?
Kind of like a Kovacs type of guy. Matter of fact, I think him and Kovacs were like, kind of like pitted against each other, so to speak, because they were both Canadian. They were both really tall. Obviously, Scott wasn't as big as Greg, but he was a pretty big dude and nice, really nice guy. I mean, I only met him a couple times, but every time I met him, we always, kind of talked and hit it off and stuff like that. So it's kind of sad to hear that he passed. He was still living the bodybuilding lifestyle though. He was still doing everything. He was big. I think he had worked for Mutant recently, the company.
Mutant. Who's Mutant?
That was the one with the
piano
from
Vancouver. Yes.
So.
Oh no, Rich Piano. Yeah.
And then he left and started his own. But it's sad. We see these guys, Chris, that are leaving us before 50 years old. I mean, that's way too young to die.
No, I told you. What I say, that statement has to be, we have to put an asterisk next to Romano's statement.
Yeah.
Which is where in that movie, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, where the bodies?
Yeah. Well,
they're around.
Romano said it perfectly, though, even just when I was talking to him on After Hours this past week, guys that, the big animals in the animal kingdom don't live as long as the small animals,
It's true. It is true.
And 300,
good observation. Yeah.
Plus pound bodybuilders.
Weight.
It doesn't even matter if it's muscle. It's 300-pound human beings don't live as long as 200-pound, beings, and don't live as long as probably 100-something pound beings.
Woody Allen is going to live to like 120.
If Michael Jackson didn't get put to death with the propofol, he would have lived probably forever too. He was like a skinny, blink. But he was doing drugs. That's the only problem, recreational stuff. But it just, I guess when your time's up, it's up. I read all these spiritual books and I get these quotes in my emails, and they teach you that you absolutely choose when you come into this world and when you leave the world. You plan, you plot out. And I've said this before in the last couple shows. You plot out your entrance and your exit, and before you're brought here, or while you're here, you figure out your exit. And I just think that I don't know. I just think that
Scott Milne willed it out that he wanted to.
Yeah, I just think that you can't. I think that people like you and I have so much going on that we're going to be here a long time.
What about in war-torn countries where bombs are dropping on children?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain that off. It's beyond my comprehension. I can't explain everything, Chris. I'm talking about the people who live in the civilized world, not the people who are living in the uncivilized world. Same thing with the World Trade Center. I don't know. I can't explain why those people died. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know everything. I have instincts towards certain things, and I just feel like you got to live you have to always have a new passion in your life, and you always have to have something that's like driving you to create and produce new stuff, so to speak.
You gotta have a new obsession.
Right. You have to have a reason to stay here, whether it be your kids or your job or your hobby or what you're giving back to the world, or whatever you're doing, because you like pumping gas every day. I don't know, whatever you're passionate about. That's why I always say find something that you really like to do and do it well. Some people do things well that they don't even like, but they're so good at it that they get that there's a pleasure that they get out of it, even though they don't. I know people that are like electricians, and they hate the fact they got to go to work every day. But they're such good electricians. They're so good and problem solvers. And they're like guys that people will bring in trouble situations and find the wire in the wall, in this huge apartment complex that's shorted out. And they're just really good at that. And so even though they'll complain constantly about the fact that they don't like the job, but they're so good at it that there's a gratification of what they're doing there. That's because they're being creative beings at what they're doing, And so I think that's as long as you have that going on in your life, there's a reason to still be here. I think a lot of bodybuilders, they're so consumed with being a bodybuilder that at some point they're not creating anymore because they can't get better. Maybe they have injuries, and they're still trying to do the same thing over and over again, rather than say, okay, you know what? I love bodybuilding. Let me be a commentator. Let me be a coach. There was a guy here in the Florida area that was like that. I said, you can't compete anymore. Your health is not what it used to be. Coach other people, make money from it, and you can live vicariously for your other. I'm sure when Roden won the Olympia, you weren't on the stage, but you definitely got a high from that because you were part of that process.
Yeah, I get a high from. Yeah, I get a high from the people around him. Around their highs.
Well, when you saw him his hand being raised as Mr. Olympia, it's like you're up there with him. You did his diet. You were there the whole way. So that was that you won the Olympia essentially. You won the Olympia with Jay. So you felt that feeling. It was about as close as you're going to get to actually being up there yourself.
I'm glad they couldn't do it by themselves like Shawn Ray, because then I wouldn't get that satisfaction of living vicariously. Though I do remember, the best part of Roden winning the Olympia is seeing Chris Lewis. Chris Lewis.
Yeah, Chris Cycle Lewis, yeah.
I've said on the show before, he was crying backstage.
Yeah, because he was with Shawn every day in the gym.
I said, is there no composure in this camp? Can you wipe those damn tears away? Because we have 363 days before we're 2 days out from next year. That's what I told him.
Right. That's funny. And then they stopped training together, after that.
Yeah. Then 2 days later, I find out they're squabbling.
Yeah. But it's right. I mean, that's the way it goes. Speaking of Cycle Lewis, he texted me, Brad Rowe had done some interview or something like that. They were talking about he was on a ketogenic diet. He tried a ketogenic diet for a whole year, but he tried the medical ketogenic diet, which is low fat. Which is really high fat, lower protein, no carbs. And he basically took a cheap shot at my diet or something like that, saying, "Oh, I do the real ketogenic diet, not Dave Palumbo's crap."
Oh, not another carb wars again.
Yeah,
God,
another guy. They don't learn the lesson. I don't know why they don't learn the lesson. These people coming after me. No one fares well when they come after me. Especially when it's related to science. So I did a video explaining what ketosis is, basically. It has nothing to do with whether
Explain what ketosis is.
Ketosis is just it's restricting carbohydrates so that the brain doesn't have a fuel source. And after 72 hours of doing that, the brain will switch its metabolism from using carbohydrates or glucose into using fats, and the kind of fats, it kind of modifies the fats and turns them into what we call ketones or ketone bodies.
Yeah, because the brain cannot burn fatty acids, so it converts them into ketones,
which are usable form. Yeah, but they come from fat. They're made from fat. So the brain is essentially burning fat. So when the brain switches its metabolism to doing this, okay, on a regular basis, it's because there's a lack of carbohydrates for an extended period of time, specifically at least 72 hours. As soon as that happens, you're in a state of ketosis. So any diet that induces that, whether it be a carnivore diet, which is you only eat meat, or it be a medical ketogenic diet, which is high fat, lower protein, or it be the Atkins diet, which is the most undisciplined diet. They just basically say don't eat carbs. You can eat whatever you want, or it be my higher protein version, lower, moderate carb. As long as you're in ketosis, as long as your brain has no fuel source and it's using fats as a fuel source, it's a ketogenic diet. So which diet you choose, is up to you. Now, as a bodybuilder, my point was that you need and I've been saying this for 25 years, you need a higher protein version of the ketogenic diet because you're breaking down muscle in the gym and you're trying to repair it and you're trying to, make sure you don't lose muscle. And so bodybuilders have a higher protein requirement. If your mother decided she was going to do a ketogenic diet, okay, because she has seizure disorder and she wants to stop her seizures, or she has cancer and she's going to go on a lower protein diet because she doesn't have a high protein requirement because she's not breaking down muscle in the gym. So she would eat a higher fat diet, a slightly lower protein approach because of what her body requires on a daily basis. So my ketogenic diet is a performance-based ketogenic diet, and he was saying that's bullshit. I'm doing the medical one, which is ridiculous because no bodybuilder eats low protein. So I did a thing out there, and I basically explained all this pretty much, because I wanted people to understand, because I think people forget. I talk about it all the time, but people have to be reminded of it constantly. And I put his quote in there. I said, I don't know why Brad took a sheep shot at me, and I kind of put the clip from it so people can see what he said about me. So I'm not just making it up, right? And so, of course, he had to do a response to it. And I knew it was coming because Chris Lewis sees Brad every day. So he's like, Brad's going to do a response. I said, well, great. I said, he's like, well, Brad might wants to come on Iron Debate with you and debate you with his little buddy there. I don't know who his buddy is, he works with there, who does the ketogenic diet with him. I said, bring it on. Let's do it. I said, I love to argue and debate. That's what I live for. That's my passion. That's what keeps me alive. That's what prevents me from leaving this world early, being able to debate people on science. So I don't know if Brad's reached out to me yet or not, but I'll shoot him a text tomorrow.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So what is the advantage to entering ketosis?
I'll tell you.
Seeing that you can burn fat while you're not in ketosis.
Right. The advantage is that, look, when you put someone on a low carb diet,
I know your answer, but you know my.
No, because whether you're in ketosis or you're just out of ketosis, you'll still burn pretty much just as much fat, right? But you'll feel better in ketosis because the brain will have an unlimited fuel source. If you're slightly out of ketosis, let's say you eat like one or two carb meals a day, you're going to be miserable between meals because your brain is constantly looking for sugar. It's like being a heroin addict and just giving the heroin addict like a little dose in the morning. Well, by the afternoon, he's going to be going nuts for heroin. But if you get him off heroin and the brain doesn't want heroin anymore, he's going to feel good the whole day, right? Yeah. So that's the key. It's because most people fail on that. We're not talking about professional bodybuilders now. Most people fail on their diet because they cheat, because they feel irritable and their blood sugar's up and down and they're fighting with their spouse, and it's a very difficult type of situation to keep stability in. But if you can keep your brain functioning on a stable level because it has a constant fuel supply, because let's face it, we always have stored body fat we can turn into ketones. You're not going to cheat on your diet. You're not going to fail on the diet, and more than likely you're going to stick to it. So if you need to put someone on a very low carb diet, I always say you're better off going into ketosis at that point, because it's just easier to stick to it.
Totally agree.
When
you're in ketosis, you feel good.
Yeah, some people don't need to go that low. That's why I don't put everyone on a ketogenic diet. Some people can eat carbs and they lose weight. So I'm like, fuck, let's eat carbs then, But a lot of people women, I find, do very well in ketogenic diets. I put very few women competitors that I work with that I don't put on.
I think women build muscle on ketogenic diets.
They do, which is crazy, right? Because the fats.
Yeah.
Well, people
bizarre.
don't realize also fats, are required for building muscle. There's essential fatty acid requirements. So you can't eat no fats. I mean, in the very least, you need to take a fatty acid supplement like my Omega-Lyse formula, because those essential fats are necessary for repairing muscle cell membranes. So while you don't need a lot of it, you do need a little bit of fat in your diet, even on a super low fat diet. Like, because I know people who do. I mean, you do a lot of diets that are basically low fat, but you got to give supplements of fat at least. You got to at least give like a fatty acid supplement, because otherwise, what happens is your body goes into this like hoarding mode where it doesn't want to let go of the last bit of stored body fat because it thinks it's fat deprived, because you're not giving it the essential fats it requires. And I find that just by a lot of women, they get that like really ripped upper body, they get the lower body that's kind of smooth.
Yeah.
And that's usually because they're not eating enough fat in their diet, because estrogen's job, metabolically speaking, is really to measure how much fat's coming into the body. So you could be feeding them enough protein, but if they're not getting enough of the essential fat requirements, because of evolutionarily speaking, what goes on during childbirth and pregnancy, their bodies just won't let go of that lower body fat. It doesn't matter how much you torture it off. You can give women. I've given women 4 hours of cardio a day. And
They gain a pound?
500 grams, 500 calories, and they won't lose any weight. They'll gain weight, like you said. Yeah, it's amazing. Men will die. Men will die. They can't handle that. But women, their bodies are great conservers of energy. Amanda's like, that's me. I need to do 3 hours of cardio.
Well, they like it too.
Yeah, they do like it too. They like the stuff like that. They like to do the cardio.
Oh, they like cardio.
Yeah. You better like cardio. Well, think about Iris Cow, who might be one of the most gifted women bodybuilders of all time. She does 3 hours of cardio a day when she gets ready for a show. 3 hours. And you would think that she's a genetic freak. My cat, my Persian cat, Jedi, I can't get him off. He likes to lay on the computer mouse. I can't get him off the thing. I might have to. Amanda, can you take the cat off?
Yeah. What's on the? Yeah. Oh.
He will put himself right on top of the computer mouse, so that I can't get him off of there. I can't work. He's basically trying to tell me he doesn't want me to work, essentially. So anyway, that's the whole carnivore diet thing came up, by the way, because Joe Rogan did an Instagram where he said he lost all this weight on the carnivore diet, which is essentially a ketogenic diet. It's just it's one of these extreme ketogenic diets. Well, we don't believe you don't need any vegetables, just all meat products, all animal products, which is ridiculous, because you need monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats in your diet for the essential fats. You need the monos because they're good for your heart. You should take in you can eat green vegetables, you can eat salads and green beans and low glycemic carbs. There's no reason to do that and you can still be in ketosis. So I don't know why people do these extreme diets. I really believe it's all marketing. People love to create new diets because it's a new marketing ploy, and people are bored with eating. So they're like, oh, I'll try the paleo diet. I'll try the carnivore diet. I'll try the zone diet or whatever. There's always a new diet, right?
Yeah.
The vertical diet, which is stand-up. Everyone's got a diet nowadays. So I'm not into these fad diets. I've been proposing the same diet for 25 years at least, because I believe in the science of it. I didn't try to create a diet and say, oh, this is the jumbo Palumbo diet,
It's hard to get out. It's hard to beat your metabolism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to come up with a diet system to outsmart your metabolism at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Look, we can put a name on any diet. You can put you can make up a crazy name for you can call it the technician diet if you want to. You would just call it a high protein, moderate carb, low fat diet. I mean, that's essentially what you put people on, so you can make up your own name for it if you want to.
Pretty good diet, I'll call it.
Pretty good diet.
the pretty decent diet. I'll put it in a book form, see if it sells.
Yeah. So.
It was I was throwing out my books while I'm throwing out my taxes, right?
Yeah.
And my first.
You were throwing out your books, you said?
Well, I gave the books to when I went to have my clothes cleaned at the my bedbug clothes from my tenant cleaned at the cleaners.
Yeah.
I was bringing all kinds of nutrition and medical books to Goodwill, and I ran into Matt, who took your course,
Yeah.
and I said, "Here, I'm bringing these to Goodwill. You want these books?"
Oh, you
So
probably
I
loved
gave them
them.
away to him because I'll never read them and reread them. I used to love that stuff, but I don't have time to,
I kept my anatomy book.
I gave him my anatomy book. But go
Really?
ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have my gross anatomy book with all the detailed everything.
I gave that to him. I have the same
I would
thing.
never give that away. I can't find anything like those pictures. You know what? What I didn't realize when I got this book, I forget which one it was. There's two gross anatomy books that are like the standard. And when you take gross anatomy, you need these books, and I'll tell you why. Because they're, and I didn't know they were drawings. They almost look like pictures, but they're drawings.
Your drawings, yeah.
They draw. These artists are so talented. They draw every piece of skin, connective tissue, and it's like retracted back. The tedium to draw these pictures would be enough to make you insanely go out of your
back
mind.
to what people feel satisfied about and feel passionate
They
about.
like doing that, right? I wouldn't want to do it, but you have to be an expert in anatomy just to be able to draw these things. So you have to be an artist and an expert in anatomy. So
Yeah.
every blood vessel, every nerve, anything that's on your body, it is diagrammed in these books over the course of whatever it is, how many 100 pages. And there's different angles and different things. And you need this, so you can't, when you actually dissect the cadaver, in gross anatomy in medical school your first year, you'll never be able to find this stuff if you don't have this book to show you what you're looking for. And then you say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And then you find it in the cadaver, because it's obviously harder to do it in a live human, or dead human, as it turns out in gross anatomy. But once you find it, you think it's like you found like the Holy Grail, because it's like, here it is. This is the vessel. I see it in the book, and I found it.
Well, those books are gone now.
No, you can't give those books away.
I gave them away, and so listen. One of the first, my sister, when I was a kid, her best friend. Speaking of diet books and giving fancy names to diets, she hit a home run in terms of sales with the book that she wrote. Okay. She was a nutritionist. It's called, and it was up in my attic with my taxes, Outsmarting the Female Fat Cell.
Who wrote this book?
Deborah Waterhouse.
She's related to you?
No, she is my sister's best friend in high school.
Oh, okay. I thought it was your sister.
And so I had the book, but think of that title like maybe 20, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. Outsmarting the Female Fat Cell.
It's great, right? Good.
It's so niche-y, right?
Yeah. They would never. These publishers would never allow you to sell it now because it's too technical. Yeah.
No, it's too like if you're a woman and you can't get lean and you see that, outsmarting the female fat. I'm a female. My fat cells are special. They're different than a male's. Yeah. Outsmarting. That's what I got to do. I got to outsmart my fat cells.
Right. Exactly.
I read it like 25 years ago, and I think it had to do with like, she was just talking essentially about women who end up shutting their metabolism down by never eating.
Right. No, it's exactly true. And that was probably the...
she was ahead of her time.
Yeah.
No one was 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody was talking about it.
I'm looking at gross anatomy books right now.
Because I'm trying to declutter, Dave. I'm trying to get rid of everything that I don't look at, use, or need.
I think Grant's Gross Anatomy was one of them. That was one of the premier books of the day.
Those cost a fortune too, those books.
Oh, they were really expensive. Do you know that I had to buy the Gross Anatomy books, but I didn't buy any other books in medical school? Gray's Anatomy, that was the other one, yeah. Gray's Anatomy, that's the
which became, of course, a TV show.
Yeah. But it's funny because I in college I bought all the books, and then you wind up, it's a scam, because then at the end of the semester you sell them back to the bookstore, and they give you
50 cents on 20 cents on a dollar, and then they resell them for like 80 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, it's a complete scam. So they just recycle the books. But you're happy to get anything back at the end of the semester, right?
Yeah.
So I saw after one semester of books, and the medical school books were really expensive. I'm like, The only ones I needed, the ones with the pictures in them. And the only other book I bought, which I still have to this day, I kept also, was my pharmacology book because I really liked I really loved pharmacology. That right there.
I bet, how many nights in bed did you read that book? And
I had that book memorized, man. I got a perfect score on the medical boards.
Of course you did.
On pharmacology, man. I loved it. Oh, did I love it? I just loved drugs. I just loved it. I was fascinated by how they worked, and for some reason I found that empowering. That was an empowering, course to know the different receptors in your brain and in your blood vessels and which drugs activate
you just
them.
Wanted to know if 500 mgs a test how it worked.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? Other people just wanted to. You wanted to know exactly how it worked.
Well, the diuretic.
Other people wanted to know if it put on 10 pounds in a week.
Well, the diuretic section was very, 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 very helpful for bodybuilding because they explain how all these different diuretics affect different parts of the kidney tubules and aldosterone. And so I have a very good understanding. That's why I can explain all this, how diuretics work and which ones are good and not good, because I really have a very good understanding of that. And I have to thank the professors of that course. Also, anything related to beta or alpha receptors that occur on the blood vessel walls or the heart or the bronchial tubes. That, right? Well, yeah, and I have a good understanding. A lot of people don't even know there's alpha receptors and beta receptors, and they don't really understand that the beta 1 receptors are on the heart, the beta 2 receptors are on the bronchial tubes and the blood vessel walls, and now we're thinking there's beta 3 receptors on the fat cells, which is what they think clenbuterol activates and stuff. So, I mean, these are all things you learn, and this was relevant stuff that I learned in school. So I knew, I was involved in bodybuilding while I was in medical school. So it was so fascinating to me. I couldn't get enough of that information. So people couldn't understand how I understood this so well because they didn't know that I was so enamored with the bodybuilding, and I hadn't even taken a bodybuilding drug at that point. I was just reading the books from Bill Phillips and the anabolic reference guy and Dan Duchesne's book. I was planning, what if I did take anabolics, what I would do. But I just liked the whole idea of them, So,
and then you were off to the races, Dave.
Off to the races, yeah.
Up to 330 pounds.
Yep.
And you didn't have a coach, right?
No, 319. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. George Farris said that he was my coach for one show, but he really wasn't.
Isn't that interesting? That's what you have in common with Shawn, is that you guys both were the exception to the rule.
Shawn would say, that's why you're alive. He'd be like, that's why you're still alive. That would be his argument, right?
Yeah.
Kovacs worked with Chad too. So.
Well, and there you got Shawn.
Look, here's Chad's defense, okay? Because there are there coaches do extreme things? Yes. Was Chad an extreme guy? He probably was. Were these guys doing extreme things before Chad? Probably. But let's face it, Chad didn't put a gun to anyone's head,
Can we just acknowledge that to start with, that it's
the best very
can we put a pause in and acknowledge that it's not a healthy sport?
Right,
can just people
that's what
can people just can
don't you think the most extreme people
can Shawn acknowledge that what he did was not the healthiest thing to do to a body?
Right, but don't you also think the most extreme people went to Chad too for help?
No, I don't necessarily believe that.
I believe that. The most extreme people went to Chad for help. The people who were like, I don't care. What do I got to do to win the Olympia? I don't care. I'll do anything. So they already had that mentality, and they probably were already taking. I believe that. I'm sure. Look, Milos already had put 40 pounds on Nasser in a month before Nasser ever went to Chad, right? So
timeline. Let me do that timeline.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, that was that's what, because Nasser had gone from
Nasser went to Chad because to beat the dry diuretic test. You know that was the reason. He would never have gone to Chad otherwise.
Truth be told, Nasser was eyeball deep when he first came to New York. He got second to Mike Francois at the New York Pro.
And we know that because he told Mike Francois what he was doing, right?
Yep, and it was, it was not, 6 egg whites and 2 whole eggs at meal 1.
No,
So-
a lot of guys though. I know Nasser because I talked to Nasser about this. Nasser didn't even. I don't think Nasser believed in coaches. He liked to glom information from guys like Milos, but then he would go and use it himself. He went to Chad because he had no idea how to beat this diuretic test. And didn't he fail one of the diuretic tests?
He did actually.
He lost some prize money. Yeah, with I believe.
Yeah, he looked tremendous. Whatever that year was.
Yeah, so-
phenomenal.
So he did it because he didn't like being told what to do by anyone. You know that Nasser was like, I do not need these morons. I am more educated than these guys.
Yeah.
But Chad has some secret potion. I don't know, but it gets rid of water, so I will use it. But I will just make him believe that he is important in my training. But but really, I will behind his back, I will say he's a moron.
Stab
But
him. Yeah, exactly.
that was Nasser. You know, Nasser didn't die because of Chad. Believe me. If anything, Chad probably could have saved his life. I'm sure. So Nasser was the only person.
No, if you
Ronnie definitely
there's-
Ronnie needed Chad. Believe me, Ronnie would not be Mr. Olympia without Chad. Nasser didn't need Chad. Just like I said, just to beat the diuretic test, he needed him.
there's some hypocrisy there. I don't know. You're friends with Shawn. You can ask him on the show. You guys are like best buddies.
I'm best buddies.
Even though he got you fired from MD.
And got me thrown out of the Arnold. Tried to get me thrown out of the Arnold.
Yeah, you know.
We're work associates. That's it. I wonder why Nasser did Nasser ever contact you?
Yeah, he contacted me
Oh, he
before.
did? Oh.
Yeah.
What
I
did he
talked
say
him a
to you?
lot. About diuretics.
Oh, really? Did he?
Yeah.
And then he realized you knew nothing about them either. So
No, I had the same books that you had, so I could go through there. And,
No, but did he go to you during the testing period?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
just
Oh, this is
talked to him
before.
here and there once in a great while. Our
Chris-
paths would cross, and he would ask me something and then feed me some lie back.
Yeah, he would always give lies.
Right? He'd say, what do you do on like a Tuesday? And then, I'm just giving a hypothetical. And, I'd say, well, I usually have people, quadruple their sodium or something.
Yeah.
I'm just.
You were actually giving him lies, and he was lying back to you. It was like,
Yeah.
both like,
No, I mean, actually, Dave, I'd be telling him what I would, suggest.
Yeah.
And he would give me some cockamamie. Oh, yes, he'd give me something. When he looked spectacular in Houston, this is what he did.
You're right.
It can't be. I mean, it just.
he probably didn't
Couldn't be
believe
true.
you. He probably thought that you were like giving him, like trying to give him false information. That's why. Yes. Thank you very much, Chris Aceto, for that information. Yes, I will take it and throw it in the garbage when I leave here and stop talking to you.
You know him down to
Yeah.
a T.
Chris is mocking me. He's trying to mess me up, but when I do get ready for the show, because he knows that Jay Cutler is vulnerable to me.
Yeah. No, he would say that Jay was an aberration.
An abomination, he would say.
Abomination. No, aberration. If I had blonde hair, came through the NPC, I would have been four-time Mr. Olympia.
Right.
Because he was a conspiracy king.
Yeah. Jay was only up there because Joe Eater found him attractive. Yeah. Joe Eater, he had a crush on Jay Cutler, so of course he put them on the magazine covers and he would let him win the shows and.
He'd call the judges the night before.
Yeah.
Anything. You know what? If the more you believe from NASA, the greater the exaggeration will become. Right?
Absolutely. He was. I'll tell you one thing. He was very funny to hang out with, but you couldn't take anything he said seriously, and you couldn't believe anything he said.
You could move to the next table after you're having a blast and say, "Let me tell you about Dave Palumbo."
Right. And you got to watch your back if you had like a girl around you or something like that. Not that he would like. I was never worried that Nasser was going to steal any girl that I was around because Nasser was like not like the best looking guy. He would try to pull the old like, oh, I speak 8 languages and I won the Arnold Classic, and that was his shtick, his pickup lines, But his problem was that he was so condescending to women because he thought he was better than them, and he had that like I don't even know, that air of superiority that, like, I don't know any woman that could find it attractive, but I guess there was some women that, like the groupie women, that he would hook up with, you know.
I don't know if it's. I would pause and say, I would say it's Arab superiority.
No, not Arabs. I think it was just it was Nasser's superiority. He had no respect for anyone, but especially women, though. None. Zero.
There's a lot of people who don't have respect for women who aren't Arab.
No, you're right. That's why I said it was Nasser's air of superiority. I didn't say Arab.
No, I think we'll have to play the tape back.
No, if I did, no, I definitely didn't say that. No, it was Nasser's superiority that he felt over everyone, including, you know, everyone on the planet. Essentially, he was better than.
Oh, I mean, if you're smarter than everyone,
Yeah.
you know, generally, if you think you're smarter than the next person, then, you know, you're going to be humbled somewhere down the line.
Yeah. It is. He was, like I said, he was a true talent. We always talk. I don't know why we've been getting into these Nasser discussions lately, but I miss him. I do. I miss the guy.
You know, he's intertwined. Because he's intertwined with, you know what? He hated Shawn Ray, by the way.
Oh, he did?
But
He hated everyone, but yeah, he probably did hate Shawn.
Yeah, that's right. I actually, and he worked with Chad, so he's. I mean, his tentacles are everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, unlike other people who might have like 1 degree of separation, there's always a story. I mean, there's crazy stories. Half of them, you know, most of them are funny.
Yeah. Don't you see Nasser as like a kind of like a Cedric? Because I just can't imagine that Nasser would listen to everything that Chad would tell him to do. Do you think I could always see him just like putting his own spin on things, you know?
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yeah, you should ask Chad about that. If you thought that Nasser
listened to 100%, or did he get like maybe 80% out of him? Because sometimes Nasser was amazing, and then sometimes he just was not. You know, he was a little off. You know.
No, he had some amazing looks. You know, he had some tremendous. I thought the year that he was disqualified, he could have easily won. I forget what year that was.
Yeah,
96.
he was a freak. Yeah, he was a real freak.
You know, and go back and look at his back at that in 96, because people say, well, he didn't have a back. He did in 96.
You know what it was? It wasn't that he didn't have a back. It wasn't that Nasser had a big back.
It wasn't lean enough, and it was in 96. Because it was phenomenal when he won the Houston.
Yeah.
That was with Milos. That was 95.
The funny thing was that Nasser's didn't have a small back. It was just that Dorian's back was so crazy. I mean, imagine having to stand up on a stage against and hitting a back double bicep against Dorian Yates. That had to be brutally intimidating, don't you think? I mean, the guy had maybe the best back of all time. I mean, him and Ronnie, certainly.
Well, his front lat spread
was
when
nuts.
He was in his heyday. From 95 and 93, Dorian front lat spread was
unbeatable.
In person would blow your mind.
Yeah, there was no space between his arms. His lats were so big, you couldn't see anything between his arms. It was a sick lat spread, and so these guys had to stand next to this guy on these back shots. It was like, I mean, you just didn't want to turn around against Dorian. That's how he beat Wheeler and those guys, from behind.
Well, he beat him on the front lat spread too.
That's true.
Yeah, the other thing, of course, you've seen him in person. Side tricep, that photograph's horrible, would destroy people.
Yeah, that was a deadly side tricep.
You know, just destroy people. And it's so funny. I look back at pictures now and say, God, he looked terrible in the side tricep. Because
pictures didn't do it justice, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't do it justice. The context of the leg, the size of the leg from the side, the calves from the side, the tricep itself, even though it wasn't horseshoed, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. Not the best looking tricep, but not a bad looking tricep.
He didn't have great arms. His forearms were ridiculous, and he had good delts, but he didn't have great arms.
Yeah, they didn't know how to jimmy up the buys back in the day.
Well, I think they did. I just don't think that he did it.
Well, Matt, when I gave the books from the other day, he actually mentioned Ernie Taylor's triceps.
Oh, that's true. Ernie was jimmying up his arms, so I wonder why Dorian didn't. Maybe he tried.
Because they both from England.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny when Ernie first came onto the scene. I remember telling people that his triceps were fake, and people were like, "What do you mean fake?" And I said, "They're not real." And they're like, "What do you mean, an implant?" I said, "I don't know, but I'll tell you this: they're not real."
Yeah, his triceps were as big as his biceps. It was like he had a bicep on his tricep, right?
Yeah. I think the biceps might have been jimmied up too. The calves were jimmied up, I believe.
Yeah, they had to. He had a lot of jimmied body parts, but he had like a really small waist, and he had like good flow to his body, so it like worked.
It
worked.
It worked. Yeah.
But it's weird that no one called. Like, I'm surprised Shawn Ray didn't call him. I guess he didn't see him as a threat, really.
No,
so.
you took the words right out of my. He didn't. He had Wheeler's calves investigated by like crime busters or whatever. Had his calves X-rayed, but.
Exactly. Yeah, he wasn't. Ernie Teller wasn't a threat.
He did, right? Didn't he have?
I think he made him go get him X-rayed. Yeah.
Wayne D'Amelia came out the golds, and I think with an X-ray machine or something.
Or did they? Or either that, or they had a doctor examine them or something like that.
Palpitate the gastroc.
Well, Shawn, I don't know if he really
like the Olympians won on calves.
Well, he said
right?
he did it just to mess up, flex his head, because he knew that stuff like that irked flex.
He did do it to mess up his head, but it's in his head too. Isn't that the funny thing?
Yeah, but he did wind up. Didn't he beat Flex that year? I think he did.
He may have.
Shawn used every little tool at his disposal to mess with people, and a lot of times it worked because he knew that these bodybuilders were very mentally weak, a lot of them, It wasn't going to get to Dorian. Nothing was going to affect Dorian, that's for sure.
Coleman.
Yeah, or Coleman for that matter. Well, was he even around when Coleman was? Yeah, I guess he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
That's there you go. Come on.
Yeah, Ronnie's in his own world, so nothing bothers him. But Dorian wasn't getting affected by anything. Shawn Ray said, that's for sure. And that was the guy he needed to beat. But I guess he figured, you know what? If I can grab a second at least to Dorian, it's it's a better paycheck than third or fourth, So he had to get Flex out of the equation. Nasser was a guy that I don't think would have been affected by Shawn's Jedi mind tricks at all. Ha 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 ha. Shawn Ray, your Jedi mind tricks do not work on me. The weak-minded only. So there was a fun time. Who just asked me recently about the 90s? Oh, Shawn Ray did. He texted me. He's like, gave me the top 10 of the 90s. But he's like, who today beats those guys? I'm like, I don't know. Probably no one.
Well, who you tell me who was 10th, and I'll tell you.
All right, hold on. Let me get the list he sent me. It was a tough list. I didn't even realize there was that many good guys.
Well, Phil and Roden would beat Shawn, but go ahead. For sure they would. They're Mr. Olympias, and he's not, and they would beat him anyway.
Here's the list. Coleman, Wheeler, Ray, Levrone, Cormier, Nasser, Vince Taylor, Lee Labrada, Dexter Jackson, Dorian Yates, Lee Priest, Paul Dillette. Not in that order. Top
Pick
12.
one guy.
Nasser.
Just pick one guy. Nasser.
Does Heath beat him?
Does Nasser beat who?
Does Heath beat Nasser?
Oh, yeah. More complete, more polished, more detailed. Only 96 Nasser would give a lot of people problems.
97 Nasser was really good too.
Nowhere near 96. 96 was the DQ year. He only looked good in 97 because everyone out, like in prejudging, Levrone looked like a water buffalo. Shawn was way off.
Dorian was off too.
Dorian was off. Everyone was off, and so your eyes go to the biggest guy on stage who's on enough. And it was Nasser. But if you backtrack and look at pictures of Nasser in 96, Google him, Dave. You look crazy.
Does Kai Green beat Nasser?
No. Not 96.
So
no.
So you're basically saying Shawn's.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm taking. I was picturing. You know what? When you said Kai Green, I was picturing Kai's last outing, and that's when he did when he won the Arnold. Maybe the Kai Green who beat Phil.
Who won the 09 Arnold.
Yeah,
that's probably the best one.
Yep. That one would. Yeah. So you got to pick and choose.
Well, we're talking the top at the top. What about does Brandon Currie beat any of those guys?
Nasser?
Does Brandon Currie beat Lee Priest? At his best?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay. Does he beat Lee Labrada? He probably beats Labrada.
Oh yeah. overwhelms Laprada.
Does he beat Dexter at his best? No.
At Dexter's best?
Yeah.
No.
Cormier at his best?
I don't know. I don't know. Brandon's pretty good. Brandon. You know what? I'm because I'm taking the Olympia Brandon. I'm being unfair because I'm
Take
taking
the Arnold. Take the Arnold Brandon because that was the better Brandon.
That's a tremendous Brandon, and that beats people. I think.
You can't compare years. That's the problem. People try to compare. It's like comparing Rocky Marciano to Muhammad Ali. I mean, come on. They didn't fight at the same era. Who knows who would have won? It's impossible to know. All right. It was an interesting show. It was funny. I enjoy shows that when I'm done with the show, I'm like, oh, that was a good show. I don't even care what anyone thinks. I know the viewers are going to like it because we were talking about fun stuff and stuff that a lot of people don't even know about that was going on behind the scenes. And it'll be interesting to see what Chad's reaction is to what Shawn said. I really want to see how Chad is going to, because I was trying to think, what if I was in Chad's shoes? Like, how would I handle what Shawn said? All right, I'm going to go on the show. Am I going to challenge each point, or am I going to just basically try to, put down Shawn as a human being? I don't know. I don't know how do you think Chad will handle it? That was my original question to you. Because I think it's silly to try to justify every person that he said died. You're like, oh, well, Nasser died of this, and that one died of that, and
Well, why don't you just finish it off and call up Wheeler and ask Flex?
As far as what? Oh, if he thinks that Chad was responsible for his kidney failure, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, Wheeler definitely had a genetic problem with his kidney.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so Shawn's making it up. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He's out there saying, Flex lost a kidney because of
Both
Chad
kidneys.
Nicholls.
Yeah.
And instead of asking Shawn, who probably wouldn't know, instead of asking Chad, why don't you ask the person with the one kidney?
I don't think Flex talks to him anymore.
Well,
I think Flex blocked Shawn. I don't think Flex is talking to Shawn anymore.
Call up Don Long, see what he has to say.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get better than the source.
Right.
And
I don't think you can blame
the reason
anyone.
I say that, Dave, is my guess is that they both say no.
Yeah.
No, Chad's not responsible for my loss of a kidney.
I think the bodybuilding extreme lifestyle that some of us lead, or some of us have led, I'm glad that I kind of escaped, any damage in that sense. But I think that people didn't take care of their blood pressure back then. No one knew. I don't think people ever took their blood sugar back then. No one knew. And I think that people would have done whatever it took to win. And I don't think Chad was, while he was extreme, but I think these guys were doing extreme stuff before Chad. To blame the coach is ridiculous. You have to take responsibility for what you did to your own body. Whatever damage I did to my body, or you did to your body, or whatever, Chris Cormier did to his body, we all have to take it. We have to take personal responsibility for that, because we make our own decisions at the end of the day. And you're right. Chad is probably responsible for taking a lot of money out of Shawn's pocket and possibly a couple of Olympia titles. So I can understand why there was definitely a rivalry there. And after the fact, it's sometimes nice to say, you see, well, yeah, he beat me and cost me the Olympia, but look at what he did to these other guys. I'm still healthy. But I think, but Shawn made choices that he chose health over the sport. I mean, that was his own personal decision. He didn't have to do that. He just chose to do that. And, he got to, he's obviously, I guess it seems that he got out of the sport unscathed in the sense of any bad health stuff that went on. So he can have the last laugh just because he made the right personal decisions. It wasn't that, because if he had Chad as a coach, he probably still wouldn't have listened to half the stuff Chad wanted him to do if he felt that it was too extreme. So I think we all have to take, the take-home message is we all have to take responsibility for what we do to ourselves and the decisions we make. You can't blame other people for your misery. You can't blame other people for your sickness. You can't blame other people for, the misfortune you have in your life. Because at the end of the day, you make your own decisions.
Listen, Shawn Rhoden came a blink from death. A blink.
Mm-hmm.
people forget, right?
Right.
You know the story.
Yeah, when he had the bleeding ulcer.
Yep.
Well, people could say it was your fault, right? Because you were his coach.
My point in bringing it up is they probably would have.
Yeah.
And you know what he almost died from, correct?
No, I don't know.
He was taking enormous amount of ibuprofen a day.
Oh, is that why he was bleeding? I didn't realize that. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
It was right on you. You interviewed him. He said it right to you on your. That's where right on your show.
Right, but he also said that he had a lot of stress too. So when you have a bleeding ulcer.
Yeah, but it doesn't. I mean,
the ibuprofen didn't cause the ulcer. It just made the ulcer bleed more. That's
well. Yeah. I mean, there's something that you've heard the saying, "The straw that broke the camel's back."
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So, my point in bringing it up is you never know what people do in privacy in terms of not ibuprofen, but there's people who take
ibuprofen destroy kidneys too. That's what Tom Prince said. Destroyed his kidneys. He was taking a ton of ibuprofen.
There's people who take a ton of ibuprofen. There's people who take ibuprofen stacked with pain meds. Right. It's common. So you could say, did you know Shawn Rhoden died? I mean, I didn't know.
Chris killed him.
You know what? I'll say it. Shawn would be the first one championing that out there by saying, Aceto. He had that one Mr. Olympia, and that was it, kaput.
Yeah. You're the sodium.
Yeah, you agree, or yeah, move on, because that's. No,
I agree. I think that you probably would have been blamed for it. Absolutely.
I'm not saying that would have been blamed.
Shawn would have been
specifically by Shawn from it.
Well, Shawn wouldn't have been the only person.
Says that nobody needs coaches, and he calls me in 2011, and he wants to start a business where he refers people to me and takes a greater cut than Neil Hill, takes a 50-50 on a diet. You prep Dave Palumbo for a show, and I'll.
Oh, he was going to bring the clients to you?
Yeah. But coaches aren't needed. Commissions are needed.
I guess he didn't know that you turn away most of the people who contact you. People always contact. They're like, "Can you tell Chris to work with me?" I'm like, I can't tell Chris to do anything. If Chris is not answering your messages, then he probably doesn't want to work with you.
Don't forget, I did not know that Instagram had a messenger for like the first 3 years. I didn't know.
No, people ask me for your phone number. I will give it out because I know you don't want to be bothered. But I'll give your email to people, but not your phone number. And I'm sure these people contact you, and you probably, if you don't want to work with them, you ignore them. I know you because you don't even.
I'll give them that diet, outsmarting the bodybuilding fat cell.
Yeah,
like
give them the book. Send them a copy of the book. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to do a whole. Well, when we need to take a poll, an RxMuscle poll by Dave Palumbo.
Okay. So what's the poll going to be?
Whose side are you on, Shawn Ray's or Chad Nicholls? I'm serious. I'm just curious what public opinion is.
Right.
Because when you make accusations as if they're the
do you think Shawn did that? You think Shawn did that just for wow factor? I mean, because he was going on.
No, I told you he did it because he's out $3 to $4 million, dude.
Yeah, but why all of a sudden now after all this time?
Because it's painful to be out $4 million compounded at 6% interest in the stock market for 20 years. It's like 20. It's like I'm a gazillionaire. Then you're J money by now, Because it's called subconscious, subliminal. It's eating at him.
I guess subliminal, maybe.
Why are you bringing it up all these years later?
I think because he went on a place where he had a public forum to talk, and I think it was shock value. It's going to get that thing probably get 1 million hits.
Yeah. Well, you ask him. He'll text you tonight. He'll be pissed when he listens to this show.
Well, I want to see what. Well, the true test is what's Chad.
Even though
gonna
he'll say he don't listen to the show, so I don't know how he could be pissed.
Yeah.
That's the irony of it all. But go ahead.
No, I don't think he'll be pissed. We're discussing. We're throwing it out there, different theories and stuff like that. I think that's.
Well, there you're
Makes
covered
sense.
when he says I'm pissed at you too, Dave. I'm not coming on your show. But go ahead.
No, he doesn't give a shit. He makes fun of me. I make fun of him. It doesn't matter. I don't take it personal. He doesn't take it personal at this point. But
Well, I know you don't take things personally, but
I only take when people insult my diet. I take that personal. I'll go after you. You can say I'm a piece of shit. I'm ugly. I'm
you
dumb.
can't talk. You
Don't
can
come
say
after my
anything you
diet.
want bad about me. Just don't talk about my diet or my kids or my snakes
Yeah.
or my wife or my supplement line.
No, you know, anything that I can argue with you about, don't say about, because then I can. I like to argue science.
Dave,
No, because you know what?
I heard there's a guy in Spain who's talking shit about your diet. You're gonna have to,
Right.
but he doesn't speak English, and you're gonna have to debate him.
You know what the funny thing is? The truth is that, like, if I make 99.9% of the statements that I make that are science based
Are accurate.
I feel are accurate enough that I can defend them to in
I
any
agree.
court of law, that type of thing, on everything I know based on science and fact. So I don't give out haphazard information. Now, every once in a while, something slips by me that I maybe, I just didn't research enough or something like that. But very, very when it comes to diet advice, I have my facts pretty straight, and I have there's a logic behind what I do. Some of what we do, Chris, as coaches, is just through experience too. All right, you know what? I know bodybuilders need a high protein diet. There might not be a million research articles out there proving that, but there's enough out there, empirical evidence, to show that when a guy eats a high protein diet, they put on muscle at a much more accelerated rate. I mean, Scott Conley, who's the number one, probably guy in the protein metabolism field, will tell you that. I mean, the more protein you eat, the more muscle you put on. It's an exponential curve up into a certain point, obviously. And we know this to be a fact. So whether you're doing a ketogenic diet, a carb-fueled diet, or just, or any kind of diet, if you want to grow muscle and repair muscle, you have to eat a high protein diet, and you have to space the meals out throughout the day because there's no storage facility for protein. That's not a debatable fact anymore. Can you maintain your muscle on lower protein? Absolutely. I'll tell you that because it took me a long time to lose my muscle. Can you build new muscle? No. You will not. Your body will not add new muscle tissue if you're not eating enough protein. That's a known fact. I mean, trials and tribulations. I mean, how many times have you experienced this with clients? You put them on a high protein diet, they gain muscle. It's cause and effect. We know that. Why anyone would challenge that, I have no idea. But I'm willing to open, the debate, the courts of debate, as they say, and get Brad and his friend on there, and we can talk about,
You gotta go on Iron Debate.
diets.
You gotta wear those wigs like in.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start wearing a wig.
Those who used to wear the wigs? British.
The British, they still do. If
Yeah,
you're trying a case in court, you got to put the wig on.
Dave Palumbo on one side.
I'll have Sid put the
With the
wig on
wig.
because Sid is
Yeah.
kind of like the he's like the judge, right?
Yeah.
Sid, I'm gonna say, Sid, you got to wear a wig from now on.
Dave can wear the wig, and Brad can just, wear. He doesn't have to wear the wig.
You got to wear the wig. What were they called? What was that? Get the name of it. What was the party? Remember the George Washington party? What were they called? The wigs? The wig party? Yeah,
I think they were the wigs.
Yeah.
I forget what wigs stand for, where it came from, but
Yeah, the wig party.
we always have Google we can refer back to.
Those guys all wore wigs, right? Back in the day, that wasn't their real hair. They
Yeah,
wore
it was all
wigs, and you know what? They didn't shower back then very often. Those wigs must have stunk from to high heaven. Oh my god! All right, we're getting off topic too much. Chris, I got to take a shower. It's 2 a.m. I enjoy talking about these crazy debates. And you know what? Look, it's all good. And we have downtime anyway. There's nothing to talk about. Although the Arnold Classic is coming up, I will tell you, we got our press passes. I am not in your hotel. I'm in the Hampton Inn, which I prefer.
You're lucky.
To be honest.
How'd you snag that?
Well, the Arnold people always take care of us. So they got us the rooms that we wanted right across the street from the expo. So we'll be... and I booked my flight. I know we're going over, but I booked the Spirit Air. Spirit Air's got a direct flight.
It's $3, but it's like $400.
Yeah, it was $120 round trip direct from Fort Myers. There's no direct flights anyway. That's why I took it. I took it the last year.
The suitcase is $400, and the peanuts are like $1,000.
Listen, I'm not bringing any suitcases. I'm bringing a carry-on. The carry-on is like $50 each way. So I've gone from $120. I'm up to $220. Now you have to pay.
They charge you to flush the toilet too in the back.
Now you have to pay for a seat. Now that's not the upgraded seat. You have to pay for it doesn't matter what seat.
You pay and you don't even get the seat.
Right.
So if you don't buy the seat and you show up, what do you have to stand on the flight?
Listen, it's $18 each way for a seat for the lowest seat. So I think, all right, you know what? For $22, I'll get the exit row, right? So $22 each way. So that's another $44. So now I'm up to $300. I'm up to $260 or something like that. And now it's $7. It's $5 if you want to cut the line. Did you know that you could pay $5 to cut the line? You don't have to wait in the line. It's like a special line you go to. But I figure at Fort Myers Airport, there's no line anyway. So I figure I'll just cut the line in Columbus in case it's crazy because everyone's leaving the Arnold on Sunday. So it's $7 in Columbus because they jack another $2 on there. So it's $7 to cut the line. So I paid the $7 to cut the line, $22 per seat for the emergency row exit, plus the $120 for the actual airfare round trip. Now they hit you with the taxes, right? So I'm up to like $300, over $300. I'm up to. I thought I was getting a deal at $100. I'm like bragging. I'm like, Amanda, it's $120 round trip. Fort Myers never has a direct flight. She's like, wait till you don't tell me how much it is until you actually pay the bill. Well, it's like she knew, and then all of a sudden I'm adding this, I'm adding that. I'm like that, and you could get like travelers insurance. I could have added another $150 if I wanted to.
And it's like when people stay at like a place of mine when they book on like VRBO.
Oh wait, no, I think it's great.
I charge them like something a night, but by the time the taxes and
who
VRBO
charges for a carry-on bag? If the carry-on bag's over 18 inches, which every carry-on bag is, it's $46 each way.
Well, me and Roden paid I think $1,000 for furniture for luggage one time. Or $1,500, yeah, we did $1,500. Ramy's I'll tell you a funny story about Ramy off air.
I used to scream at them when I was Delta Platinum because I was flying.
I remember you had the.
I went into the airport and we had a lot of luggage because we were going to like China or something like that. We were going to Macau, and we were going Delta because I had Platinum. I go to check in. It was like all of us. It was like Sally, this one, that one, Johnny, this one. We had like 6 people with us, okay? And the woman's like, oh, you're a bag over. It's going to be $120. I'm like, are you fucking nuts? I said, what do you mean over? What are you talking about? We're going to China. I'm Platinum. You're not charging me for a bag. What do you mean? Why are you checking them all into my bag? Don't they get one free bag? Yeah. So why? I was screaming at them. I was going nuts. I lost my mind. You would have thought I was on Trenbolone.
No, I saw you lose your mind before in an airport.
I don't have any. I have no patience. I'm like my father. This is a statement my father said. I have no patience for ignorance. That's my father's famous statement. So when people I get like turned into my dad when people start getting stupid, like and making no logical sense at all. I've seen you lose your mind at airports too. So you're worse than I am because you do it in front of you do it with the family and the kids, right? you scream at the rent-a-car people, right?
Yeah.
So. This woman, she had to get a manager over, and you know that they were because I was raising my voice, they weren't going to let me get on the plane. So I had to calm down. I had to like fucking eat it. I had to eat the bag. I was pissed as hell. I was so mad. She's like, they were getting really obnoxious with me, and I'm like, and I'm thinking they're not going to let me get on the plane. I know it. They're going to say that they're going to they're going to call security, and then I'm done. So I said, all right, you know what? Just check the bag in. As soon as I said that, the manager, who is now there, she's like, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. So sometimes you have to be nice. Rather than being right, you're better off being kind, as I always say.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, on that note, we are officially out of time for the second time. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone.